Okay, so we are going to go over answers to some of the study guide questions that you guys have been working on. Okay, so those of you at home that are watching, this is the study guide that we are going to start going over. Okay, so I've written a few things on the board. These are some basics that I want to go over with you. So let's do those first, and then I'll start taking your questions, and we'll go through them piece by piece. Okay? All right, so the purpose of the preamble of the Constitution. Did anybody find what that one means? The purpose. This sets the framework. For our government. Okay, sets the framework for our government. It'll say something along those lines on your test. So as long as you know that it sets the framework or sets it up or organizes our government, okay, that's what I want you to remember. Hi, ma'am. We're going over the study guide. Okay, so whatever I write, you can write, and if you have any questions that you want me to answer today, we'll go over those. All right, what are the three branches of government? Legislative is one. Judicial. Executive.
Is that on part 1 or part 2?
It is, the three branches of government is number 12 on part 1. Okay. So the three branches of government, the legislative, the judicial, the executive. Okay, this is not on this question, but which branch of government has to do with the president? The executive. So the executive branch is to do with the president and the vice president. Okay, which branch has to do with the Supreme Court? The judicial branch. Okay, and then the last one, the legislative branch has to do with what? What do we call those two houses? Congress, okay? So the two houses together we call Congress. Or the House and the Senate combined. House and Senate combined is, fancy way of saying it is Congress. All right, now we're going to talk about the qualifications. Do you remember what qualification means? Qualification means requirements. Okay, so what are the requirements to be a representative in the House of Representatives? How old do you have to be?
35. No.
How old do you have to be in the House? 25. They have to be 25 years old. What else?
You gotta be
That's president.
Don't they got like one term or something like
Nope, we're not going to do terms. Where do they have to live?
that? United States.
In the state they represent.
Okay, and that's number 2.
The qualifications for president is number 2. So POTUS is 2.
That's 3, I think. Is it 3?
I don't think it's specifically on here.
Terms for
The terms is, but let's finish qualifications first. So to be a representative, you have to be at least 25. You have to live in the state you represent, and you have to live in the state for the last 7 years. Okay, be a senator. What are the qualifications to be a senator? How old?
Isn't that the same age for 35?
No, that's president.
No.
It's not 25 and it's not 35, but it's,
In the middle.
40,
no, it's in the middle.
30.
30. You have to be 30 years old to be a senator.
Oh, where is that at?
This is not one of your questions, so this would be a good thing to write on the back or in a margin, okay? The House and the Senate one, for some reason, is not on your study guide, so I apologize. Write this somewhere, okay? You have to live in the state you represent. Okay, and they have to live in the United States for at least the last 9 years. Okay. So, to be a representative in the House of Representatives, you have to be at least 25 years old, live in the state you represent, and have lived in the U.S. for the last 7 years. To be a senator, you have to be at least 30. You have to live in the state you represent, and you have to live in the U.S. for the last 9 years. Now, to be president of the United States, this is number 2 on your study guide. How old do you have to be? What's the minimum requirement?
35.
35 years old. Good job.
So is that qualifications to be president, right?
Yes, that's right here. POTUS, President of the United States. Okay? So you have to be at least 35 years old. What else do they have to do to be president?
Live in the United States for 14 years.
Live in the U.S. for 14 years.
Be born in the United States.
Good. You have to be a natural born citizen.
How come?
Huh?
How come?
That's just what the founding fathers, the writers of our Constitution, came up with. They thought you needed to be a natural born citizen. It's only those 3 requirements. So on your exam, it's going to say something about natural born citizen. It'll list out a whole bunch of qualifications and you got to pick which one is correct. So you need to remember, 35 years old, natural born citizen, live in the United States for the last 14 years. Okay? All right. Do you have all of these written down somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, wait just a second. I see people writing. We good?
I just need the Senate part. But I
The Senate part, you're good with this part? Okay.
And,
Okay. All right. So, let's do number 3, terms for representative.
2 years. Right?
Mm-hmm. What's the term for a senator?
4 years.
6.
Senator?
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years, good. And how about president?
4.
Okay. Now, how many terms can a president run for?
2.
Maximum of 2 terms. Okay. Or no more than 10 years. Okay. So the president has 4-year terms. The maximum number of terms that they can serve is 2. But if, let's say, a president died and the vice president took over, and that vice president was technically president for less than 2 years, then he or she could run for an additional 2 terms. as long as it's no more than 10 years total. All right, the flag standards. The flag code is considered to be proper etiquette. Just like how you shouldn't chew with your mouth open and have your elbows on the table.
You got that?
Okay, there are certain things that you should do with the flag, but it's not like a law, okay?
You can't burn it.
Right, you shouldn't burn it unless it's in a ceremony, okay? So,
if we burn it regularly and the police see us burn the flag, they'll take us to jail?
now, if you're causing a disruption to the peace, or you're trying to start a riot, or trying to start any like physical confrontations, then the police can do something about it. If you are like, I'm so fed up with things and I'm gonna burn this, it's freedom of speech. As long as you're not starting a riot or you're not insinuating that people should start looting things or, whatever, then no. It's just considered etiquette. It's not considered nice. It's things you shouldn't do, but it's not a law. Okay, so flag code is etiquette. Okay, so how should the flag be flown with other flags?
Higher.
Okay, flown at the top. Always higher than any other flag that you might be flying. Okay, top of the flagpole or the tallest flagpole. Okay, if your flag is worn and tattered, what should you do with it?
Throw away.
No, I don't just throw it in the trash.
Burn it.
Okay, you can burn it. It should be a very quiet, like a solemn kind of ceremony. Or your best bet is to give it to the Boy Scouts, and the Boy Scouts or like the VFW hall, they'll have the ceremony. Okay.
But what if we just listening to music while it's burning?
Play some patriotic music or something. Like that's okay.
Let's do it.
Like, I wouldn't be having like a weenie roast and roasting some marshmallows on one side and throw an old flag on the flame at the same time. You're just standing there quietly. That's one thing, but it shouldn't be like oh yeah, hey, that flag's kind of messed up. Let's take care of it while we're having a weenie roast. It should be like a quiet thing. It's kind of like when you go to a funeral. Like, it's not like time to.
You just take it out somewhere like way far away and just burn it and then walk away.
I mean, if it's quiet, you don't have to have a big hoopla parade. Just think about like if you're going to pay your respects to somebody that's passed away. People walk up to a casket, they just kind of quietly, they might say a little prayer, they might just sit there quietly for a minute. Same kind of idea with a flag that's torn. Okay, you can just sit there quietly. It's like paying your respects. Okay, so if torn, oops. If torn or ruined of some kind, burn quietly, or give it to the Boy Scouts or the VFW hall or something like that, okay? If it's torn, you should go ahead and burn it. The 13 stripes, red and white stripes, what do they represent?
Our freedom?
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope. It's like about like that. How many presidents or something?
Nope. 13 original
Stars.
Nope.
Freedom, speech.
People.
colonies. Stripes equal the 13 colonies.
It's 13 stripes on the flag?
Yep. 13 red and white stripes. Okay. What do the stars represent? Good. There's 50 stars for 50 states.
Why it don't show 50 stars on the flags in our school?
It does.
It does?
Uh-huh. Now, like, if something is just considered an image of the flag, doesn't have to be an exact, like those 9/11 things that we made. They may not have like 50 stars on them, but it's just a representation. But a real flag would have 50 stars.
So do we gotta, is John just the school's real flag?
Yeah.
Right, I never noticed we had 50 stars on
Yeah,
it.
there's 50 stars, one for each state.
So why we don't got the Jamaican flag here? Like, okay, what's the point? Okay,
Because, well, like, I mean, we're not Jamaican, but, like, so like, let me give you an example. Like,
okay, flags like this.
like the French flag, because they teach French in this classroom first hour. So that's why there's French flag.
Okay, they got the same color as the
Yeah.
American flag,
Not the British
but
have
in
the same
different
color.
design.
Yeah, and yeah, the flag from England, they have the same colors, but different designs. Every country has their own.
But with the.
Like, is they part
Like,
of-
these are different countries where they all speak French, and these are all different flags to represent those countries.
Canada got like
Like,
only.
here's the Canadian flag. Every country has their own flag.
and-
Just actually, every state has their own flag too. So the Illinois flag has like some greenery, and it's got like a bear in the middle, and it says Illinois at the top. Everyone has their own flag.
Okay, another question.
Yeah.
So, other states and places got the blue, white, and red, right?
Some places do, not everybody.
So, is they American?
Mm-mm.
'Cause nobody
No,
knows
and
how
in
color-
each color represents different things. And just because we have red on our flag and it means one thing, and another country has a red on their flag, it might mean something different.
Okay, you answered my
Does that make sense?
question. Yeah.
Because like Ireland's flag looks very similar in style to the French flag, but their colors are green, orange, and white.
Oh, okay. Alright, I got it.
Okay, yeah.
You answered it.
I feel like this is Sheldon Cooper's Fun with Flags. You watch Big Bang Theory, anybody?
I heard
Not
of the
no
show. It's
Nobody
alright.
got it. Fun with Flags is Sheldon's thing. We got all this?
Yep. So, if you go to a different area,
Mm-hmm.
but you bring the American flag with you,
Mm-hmm.
and you hang it up in a different area, and they don't, like, notice what flag it is, or they probably do, but act like they don't know it. Is that starting a riot?
No. Unless you're like being confrontational about it.
As in,
So like, okay, so like in the Olympics, when the person who wins gold, so a person who wins gold, their flag would be flown the highest.
Mhm.
And then silver is next, and then bronze is next. Okay, now, if an American wins bronze, but let's say an Italian wins gold, then the Italian flag will be flown higher than the American flag. In that case, that's proper etiquette because it goes based off of your medal rankings. Now, in your home, let's say your ancestors are from Italy and you wanted to fly an Italian flag at your home in America, then etiquette shows that you should have the American flag at the top and then the Italian flag.
but what if you switch it?
It's considered improper etiquette. In Italy, it may be proper etiquette to have the Italian flag, then the American flag. Okay, but since we're in America, our etiquette shows American flag is first. Just like in our country, it's considered polite and proper social cues to look somebody in the eyes when you're talking to them. In other countries, that might be considered rude and disrespectful. Yeah, okay. Every country has their own etiquette. Ours for flags just happens to be that the American flag is always on top. As long as you remember that, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. The separation of powers and checks and balances kind of goes together. So, we have the separation of powers. Why do we have that?
So no one can have too much power.
Good. It's so no one branch becomes too powerful. Okay, checks and balances kind of goes along with the same thing. Okay, the only difference is, so if we have like the legislative branch that checks over the executive branch, and they check over the judicial branch. The judicial branch checks over the legislative and the executive, and the executive checks over the legislative and the judicial. Everybody checks everybody else out. For a law, it starts in the legislative branch and then has to be signed by the president in the executive branch. But then you also have the judicial branch to make sure that it's constitutional. Okay? The president could go through impeachment with the legislative branch if they're doing something wrong. And the judicial branch could check to make sure that the office of the president is running constitutional. Okay? And then these two branches will also check over the judicial branch to make sure that they're following the Constitution. Everybody's checking for everybody else. Number 8, term for a senator, we did. How long's the term for a senator? 6 years, good. Legislative branch, where do they meet?
Capitol, Washington, D.C.
Good. Okay, so the legislative branch, that's the House and the Senate, they meet at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Okay, we'll finish after lunch.